Welcome back to Hometown TCG. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Josh.
And I'm John.
And we are back with the final installment of the Welcome to Rathe portion of our series where we review every hero in Flesh and Blood.
That's right. We've heard from the community that there are not only members of our community that are growing, but there are new people that they're getting into the game, and they're looking for what these different heroes do, a little bit about them. So we want to give you this overview. We think this is a really fun time, and today we are looking at Katsu.
Yes, we are going to review the ninja in Welcome to Rathe. And guys, Katsu can be so much fun. He reminds me, or he makes me think of Kasai and Blitz, and Katsu Blitz, and then Katsu Constructor are decks that I consider, there's just so much fun to play. There's so much you can do.
There are a lot of different strategies you can go with him, and he's kind of the standard for go wide. Is that you just throw a million different attacks from left and right, and it's just,
oh my
it's all
gosh,
over the place.
It can get absolutely insane, and that kind of lends well to his keyword from Welcome to Rathe, and that is combo.
So combo is that your specific card, if a card was played previously to it, it gains an additional effect. So for instance, the card Whelming Gustwave says that if Surging Strike was played before it, then it gains Go Again, +1 damage, and hit draw a card. Which is a lot.
Yes, so combos are exactly what they sound like. They make me think of like Mortal Kombat, right? You're chaining together this sick combo, and if you're able to hit the combo, you get this gigantic reward, right? And in most decks, that ends in Lord of Wind. We'll get into staples, so we don't get too far down that rabbit hole, but some of these combos, guys, can get out of control. So he uses the word combo to kind of piece together these super ultra-wide attack chains, and he also pressures with the concept of on-a-hit effects, where if your attacks hit and do damage, you get cool, I guess, rewards for hitting your attacks.
That's right. Your opponent wants to block him. So you're forcing cards out of your opponent's hand, you're forcing resources from them all the time because you always have that pressure, which is just so neat about him. So I think that just lends into what he does well.
Yes, that is where he shines 100%. That is on the front foot, going ultra wide and doing all these attacks with different hit effects, being aggressive. You know, you're thinking ninja, you're like, wow, over here, over here, over here. That is what Katsu does extremely well.
Yeah, and the thing about going ultra wide like that is your opponent can't block at all.
It's impossible.
It's just impossible. So you're going to get damage in no matter what. And then part of it, too, is because he can go so wide, his late game becomes very powerful. And I think in particular with his weapons.
Yes, so the two Kodachis offer, you know, the dink and dunk attacks, as they say, where you can, if the game is closed out and you're facing a Katsu and you're at about 3 life, it feels really bad to block those weapons. So it's almost like you're guaranteed to take 2, because you don't want to use a good resource to stop 1 damage. But that just opens the door. I mean, 1 more damage and you're done. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
And then on the flip side is that his defense, if you're playing a defensive control version of him, he can actually defend wide rather well himself.
Yeah, and that's because of the card Flick Flack and turning that keyword combo into this defensive monster out of nowhere.
Yeah, so we see that he can be an aggro deck or a control deck depending on how you build him, which is really interesting.
Absolutely. Versatile hero, and we love to see that. The final thing where he really shines is, like we said, those hit effects, right? The ability to draw cards, hit effects gain life, hit effects his power, searching out different attacks and stuff like that.
There's so many different things that are very powerful.
Yes, but he does struggle. He's not perfect, right? So he does struggle in some major areas. The main one being, I don't want to say his armor's a weakness, because a lot of his armor is very, very good, but his equipment, the block on his equipment is very weak.
Great effects, but not good defense.
Terrible defense.
So it requires him to block with cards from his hand. So that kind of puts you in a weird situation if you're playing an aggro version of him, because you don't have any protection to keep your cards.
Yeah, so you have to defend yourself with the same resources you want to attack. So it's a very decision-intensive deck if you're playing the aggro version, 100%. He can also draw into awkward hands, right? Things being combos mean you either need to be able to search for certain pieces or have certain pieces of the combo present. So you can draw a couple awkward hands.
Right. He can be super aggressive, but every once in a while you draw into something and you're like,
3 attack reactions and Lord of Wind.
I'll pass.
Yeah, so if you can get bad hands, it's possible. It's few and far between. It lends a lot to your deck building skill and stuff like that, but still, it's possible it can happen.
I think I'd say one more thing about the aggro version of him. It plays a lot of 2-block cards.
Oh, so you're vulnerable to other hit effects from your opponent, too.
Yeah, so it kind of goes with the thing you're saying that you have to choose what you're going to do with the deck.
Right.
You have to decide that beforehand. He's not like other decks where you can just decide mid-game.
Yeah, mid-game or even inside decking or stuff like that. You kind of got to make that call. Okay, very, very cool. So at least he's not perfect, because we've talked about this in other videos. Go wide is a very effective strategy, especially in the current meta with, it's kind of at the moment dominated by Chain, who likes to go ultra wide. Katsu can kind of apply that pressure from the get-go, and that lends us into talking about his playstyles and that aggro playstyle.
Yeah, that aggro playstyle is just so powerful, and he could go turn after turn after turn of pressure, and if your opponent can never put on some gas themselves, you just have control of the game.
You can have control of the entire game. Your hit effects combined with the Mask of Momentum trigger the threat to have go again and draw into more gas that your opponent just has to stop. It can be completely overwhelming. You're only vulnerable to really drawing that bad hand.
Yeah, that's right. And then on the flip side, the control version.
Oh, the control play style,
is similar to an Ira deck, to where you're blocking out with 2 cards and you're going Kodachi, and medium attacks.
And something, right?
Something.
You're kind of playing that long game. You're playing really effective defense, and you're dunking your way through the game.
Yeah, and it's sometimes hard for your opponent to keep up with the efficiency of your DPC, your damage per card, in that type of deck.
Yep, and in that case too, we've talked about the fact that with a good arsenal, that deck can be very aggro for a turn or two as well.
Yes.
So if your opponent does have a turn where they maybe lay off the gas a little bit, you can flip the script and kind of go all out and really get after them.
Yeah, it does have some combos in the deck, and it does have the same ability on hit to search out the combo piece.
Yes.
So it can be setup-y, and it can have a massive turn.
So to play either of these decks, you're going to need what we call some Katsu staples. And some are maybe a little more aggro-specific and some are a little more defensive-specific. But it starts and it centers around that legendary piece of equipment, the Mask of Momentum.
Yeah, the Mask of Momentum is just key for him because it adds a hit effect on every single turn, no matter what you're playing.
Yes, if you hit the third attack and you get to draw the card, your opponent assumes you have some kind of go again, or maybe if you have a go again effect lying on the field, you could draw absolute gas. You could have a defense reaction in your hand and draw into an Enlightened Strike and be able to Enlightened Strike for 7 out of nowhere after a combo chain. It can be absolutely overwhelming. If you want to play Katsu, it's a 100% must-have.
Yes.
Second would be the combo pieces ending in Lord of Wind, I assume.
Right. Lord of Wind is just kind of an iconic card for him. It's an amazing combo string. It's something that both your aggro deck and your control deck can set up for.
You love playing that card. Yeah. Every time you get so giddy every time you get to play Lord of Wind.
It's hard to get it off. I'll say that.
It is.
It is hard to get it off, but if you do, it feels so good. And if you don't, your opponent probably had to block with their entire hand to just stop you.
Yeah, so you get to put your foot on the gas right away next turn. There's a card we consider a staple here that might not, to newer players, it might not look as impactful as it truly is, and that's Ancestral Empowerment.
Yeah, Ancestral Empowerment, +1 damage and draw a card is incredible because you're so reliant on getting those hit effects. That +1 damage is oftentimes more than +1 damage. Just a lot of times it's +1 damage and draw a card, and that card draws itself.
Yes, so a lot of times it's pushing over your third attack to trigger Mask, or it's pushing over an attack with another hit effect, and it's replacing itself into possibly more gas. Guys, that card it's insane. It's so good. And if you're building defensive Katsu, there's one card that comes to mind, and it's a 9 of.
Ooh, that's a Flick Flack.
That is Flick Flack, and you play all 9 of them, guys, because Flick Flack allows your next card with combo, which, as we've discussed, you have plenty of, to defend for +2. So that combo card likely becomes a 5 defense card. So good.
Yes, amazing defense, maybe the best defense reaction in the game. It can allow you to block wide, and it's just, the blue version is worth 4 defense.
It's fantastic, guys.
Wow.
So those are some Katsu staples, and Katsu's really exciting and really great for newer players because it puts newer players in a position where they kind of gotta have a plan. They can't just go through. They can't just be pitching and attacking out of nowhere, playing hand by hand. They gotta kind of have a plan for what they want to do.
I really like that. It teaches you not the hand-to-hand thing. It teaches you the broader concepts of this game,
Yeah.
which you have to have a strategy going into the game, and Katsu's a great way to learn that.
So guys, if you haven't picked up your Katsu yet, or if you got a lot of these staples that you're seeing in this video, build that Katsu deck, get out there and play it. Again, thank you to our patrons that can be found over at patreon.com/hometowntcg, and thank you to all of you guys for watching this video, for being active in our community and suggesting these awesome videos. Guys, this is just so much fun. Do you have any final thoughts before we move on?
Man, Katsu's just a great character. He's a top tier character and fun to play. Teaches you a lot, so I'd suggest giving him a try.
I absolutely should just suggest that as well. And I think you're a little infatuated with Katsu at the moment. You might have a new favorite character. We'll let you guys know in the future.
Yeah, but until then, my name is John,
and I'm Josh.
See ya.